Other interesting cultural news, you have the New York Times critiquing the Daily Wire for having a father figure in a cartoon that's actually shown in a positive light. Excuse me. Now, this comes as the Daily Wire has rolled out a myriad of additional entertainment applications, including children programming, and more rarely, children programming that is not perverse or morally vacuous. And I can't but notice throughout my lifetime, Hollywood, well, not only is it politically one-sided, but every single time a father figure is shown, he's either dumb, lazy, or inept. He's never shown in a good light. I mean, think about it. The most prolific cartoons ever made in Hollywood. They're all morons. They're all evil. It's sometimes cruel. I mean, think about it. You got Simpsons, Homer's a moron. Family Guy, Peter's, again, a moron and a drunk. I mean, all these shows, they're always cast in the worst possible light. I mean, even Futurama, they just have Fry being he's not the father, I guess. I don't know if he becomes father like in the last season or something, but he's just a lovable buffoon. This never really shown in a positive light. Now, it looks like this is original article comes actually at dailywire.com, and they note, quote, social media erupts with praise for Chip and Chilla after New York Times attacks show for depicting, quote, weirdly present father who teaches lessons about dead white people. It shows the fascinating cultural decay of society when New York Times is like, it's so strange the dad's there for the wife and kids. You mean what used to be the norm in the United States? Ridiculous to say the least. Now, it looked like in the Times piece published on Monday earlier last week, writer Amanda Hess criticized portrayals of the father in Chipchilla and the popular Australian series Bluey as a fantasy because they are active and engaged in their children. The New York Times writer also suggested that the dad in, quote, Chipchilla is the worst offender of the two because he teaches, quote, lessons about dead white people, unquote. You mean how the United States is founded? I mean, I guess we shouldn't be surprised. Most modern media wants to destroy any semblance of our country's history. So I guess we should be surprised. It's kind of sad that this gal, she thinks it's a fantasy to have a father figure. No, it's quite literally the default since the dawn of time. That's how it should be. Now, she continues saying, quote, remember, folks, I guess before I say this quote, I can't help but notice, I don't want to say they're mentally vacuous all the time, but there's a high probability if someone uses the term problematic, I'm not saying they're mentally vacuous or a moron. I'm just saying, statistically speaking, it's probably in a high percentile that they are. Now, she says, quote, remember, folks, Ben Key's hashtag Chipchilla is extremely problematic because it teaches kids about dead white people like, many of the great, and then this is actually a quote from Ben Shapiro. The second part, he says, like, many of the greatest heroes of all time. And they also know that, quote, it is also extremely patriarchal for the dad to be involved and educate their kids. Really? Michael Knowles actually said, quote, I hate Chipchilla because the dad isn't a lazy idiot and the mom does housework. Also, I hate my kids. New York Times, unquote, from Michael Knowles. And then, in terms of social media, one of the most popular takes was from End Wokeness. It's got 1.3 million views on X, or as fewer and fewer people are calling it, on Twitter. And End Wokeness says, quote, the New York Times is mad at Benke's Chipchilla because the dad homeschools and teaches kids about, quote, dead white people. By the way, these dead white people are George Washington, Neil Armstrong, and Ben Franklin. Heaven forbid, etc., unquote. Heaven forbid we actually teach about the founding fathers and some of the greatest minds in history. Now, End Wokeness continued to quote, saying, quote, they're also fuming about how the show has a father figure play a central role. And they got 1.3 million views and 10,000 likes. And go to the comment section here. Someone by the name of Washington's Ghost says, quote, two things Marxists hate, history and a strong family unit, unquote. Getting 3.7 thousand likes. And then Wokeness replied to that specific comment. And they specifically said, bingo, getting 1.2 thousand likes. See here. Sir Majesty says, quote, I have zero white guilt. Who is with me? Unquote. And this person has a picture of a gas meter on a vehicle. It says empty or full. It says empty. It says white guilt. instead of having a fuel logo. And the dots, or the little bullet points below it, say, quote, none of my ancestors owned slaves, nor did 95% of white Americans during the years of slavery. White Republicans died in the Civil War to free slaves. White Republicans voted unanimously to free the slaves and later voted to give them citizenship and voting rights. Democrats fought against all three of these amendments, unquote. That got 1,000 likes. Mark says, quote, hopefully this has the Streisand effect. You can't get a better endorsement than a hit piece from the New York Times, a strong male role model and as part of the nuclear family that kids can look up to is dangerous to Marxist culture, unquote, getting 271 likes. Bronos says, quote, that's not fair. You cheated with your money. And it's a meme of the Pikachu with the mouth open. And it says, and the left, and it says, left pushes liberal narratives on kids, parents, and then the other thing is parents subscribe to different platforms. Left, Pikachu, astonished, surprise face. I got 513 likes. Let's see here. D Mac, though I don't want to say F for marketing, but there's not even a picture of McDonald's Big Mac, but nevertheless, just alleged Mr. Mac says, quote, it's time to ignore them, and is a picture with a, font in front of a brick wall, and it says, quote, why don't the 99% of us who aren't offended by everything quit catering to the 1% who are, unquote. That got 638 likes. Robert Spudis says, quote, let them be pissed. As dads, we must step up and do our job. We have them for such a short period, train them up in the way that they should, unquote. And is ironically, a picture of Walt Disney and a quote from Disney saying, quote, a man should never neglect his family nor business, or for business. It got 184 likes. And it's ironic because what inspired Bent Key and the Daily Wire, the parent company behind it, to start these children's shows as well as their media, some of their films, is that the Daily Wire noticed that the Disney company had so perfectly alienated about half the country, injecting things around sexuality, again, father figures being moronic, and pretty much shooting themselves in the high-heeled boot. Some would say worse than Ron DeSantis. And they literally just created this opportunity for another business to come in and provide a superior product. And I forgot what the description is for Daily Wire, but probably at a better price as well. Now, Thinking West says, quote, they really don't want normal family dynamics being renormalized, unquote, getting 340 likes. Zach Rader says, quote, New York Times, upset about Chip Shilla because teaching history is a dad joke, and apparently the five figures are the real forbidden knowledge, unquote. It got 193 likes. Joshua Merker says, quote, oh, here's a quote within a quote. He says, quote, then create your own Disney, unquote. Alternatives funded and created. No, not like that, unquote. Got 858 likes. The Outsider says, quote, whenever the New York Times is upset about it, keep doing it 100%, getting 265 likes. Carolina says, quote, they're afraid of families homeschooling their children because the kids might learn the truth, unquote. I got 432 likes. They also might learn, things actually have a modicum of value to modern society or to society in general. And maybe have a modicum of, financial intelligence, tell them not to take out student loans, teach them how to put a budget together, things that public schools don't really teach anymore, which is why public schools are so, on average, so ridiculous. I mean, you have 32-year low for ACT scores, historical lows for math, science, history, technical scores, and yet the teachers union say they deserve even more money. The only instance where mediocrity is quite literally incentivized, public unions, more often than not. And as you continue to scroll, you just have overwhelming support for the Daily Wire, and they are quite literally the fastest growing conservative media company headquartered out of Nashville, Tennessee. And as they create more and more alternatives, and they fight what many consider to be the culture war, I can't help but think more and more people, especially in the middle, who don't want their kids exposed to certain political ideals or sexual themes, they're going to say, well, let's move away from Disney and go to something like Bent Key, which is providing this superior product that we can actually trust to actually have our kids watch. We don't need to pre-screen it as often. Now, in full transparency, no matter what it is, I always suggest pre-screening the content before exposing your children to it. But it's one of those instances where I think you're going to hear the market speak more and more, and the voice is becoming louder and louder. So we will see how quickly and how much more the Daily Wire will continue to grow. But I believe this is quite literally their multi-million-dollar idea that's going to gain them a lot of net new subscribers, and it's going to just push them in the stratosphere from a cultural perspective and from a business perspective. Thank you, everyone, again, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of December, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a comment and a thumbs up is a great way to give me some additional feedback on how I can specifically improve the quality of the show, as I ever increasingly try to focus on enunciating more, slowing down my pace of speech, as that has been feedback that I know is something I need to work on. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.